And we're on. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. I see we have 13 people live on the line, so that's very, very exciting. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kelly, and I'm part of the Fabrik team. And what I really love is to work with our Fabrik clients to launch their Fabrik app into the world, and then also to work with them to get to know all the different parts and pieces of Fabrik and start to use those really successfully and effectively. So the topic for today's webinar is publish and manage your audio content using Echocast. So for those of you who don't know, Echocast is Fabrik's audio capturing and publishing and podcasting platform, and it was actually first released over 10 years ago, and it's currently being used by many of our radio clients quite successfully. And even if you've done training before, you may have done your initial Echocast platform training, it is always good to come back and refresh your mind, refresh your memory, because is a platform that keeps evolving. So there may be things that you haven't seen before. And there also may be new members that have joined your team that have never seen Echocast before. So the reason I personally wanted to do this session is because over the last few weeks, I've really started to look even deeper into Echocast. And I've been so surprised and blown away by all the little tips and tricks that are found within Echocast. And I realized that if I'm learning some of these things for the first time, then I'm sure that there's some of you, our existing clients, or even people that are very new to Fabrik that may not be aware of everything that you can do with an Echocast. So it truly, truly is a revolutionary application. As I said, even now, 10 years after it was initially launched. So I really hope we can reveal some tips and tricks and hidden gems for you today. And I hope that you will fall in love once again with Echocast the way that I've been doing the last couple of weeks that I've been exploring even more. So on that note, if you would like us to deliver this webinar to you or to your team in the future, please let me know after the session. We'd be absolutely delighted to do that for you. Just get in touch with me afterwards. And today on the line, I'm very excited to have my invited guest, who's Bevan Andriés. Bevan is Fabrik's Chief Operating Officer, and he joined the team around 10 years ago. So actually, Bevan was around just as Echocast was actually being conceptualized and launched into the world. So he's probably one of the people with the most knowledge about Echocast. So it's truly an honor to have him on the line today. And Bevan comes from quite a established career in radio and also in systems engineering. So he's very knowledgeable about all the parts and pieces of Echocast, as well as audio processing. And many of you might have had the privilege of chatting to Bevan about your audio, so he really is very knowledgeable about everything we're going to talk about today. And he is also at an executive level accountable for customer success, which is making sure that our clients know how to use Fabrik and they're actually getting the most value out of it that they could possibly get. So our agenda for today is we're going to start off with a brief overview of Fabrik, and Bevan's actually going to introduce us to the Echocast application, give us some insights into how Echocast was born, and also the kinds of challenges that Echocast can really address and solve within the radio industry today. So from there, I'll be taking you through a live demo of Echocast, which is going to be very exciting, and you'll actually get some inside info into Echocast, and hopefully you will be able to reveal some things that you didn't know. So as you can see, we do have a chat on the right-hand side of the screen. So if you have questions, please do pop them in there, and we will have time at the end of the session to actually answer some of your questions. So I hope that you will. No question is a stupid question. Please do ask whatever it is that you'd like to know, and we'll have some time to focus on those at the end. So without any further ado, I hand over to Bevan.
Thanks, Kelly. Just looking at myself, I must apologize, guys. The makeup artist didn't arrive, and so there's a bit of a shiny patch here with our lighting. face for radio, as they say. So as Kelly said, thanks. Yeah, the first 10 years of my career was as a broadcast and systems engineer at a radio station just up the road. And as they say, radio, once it's in your blood, it's always in your blood. So after spending my first 10 years there, I subsequently have been at Media working with Fabrik for the last 10 or so years. And it's been an absolute joy to be able to build technology solutions for the radio space. And, with obviously having that kind of a background and understanding in some of the challenges. And, more recently over the last couple of years, working with our team to create Fabrik has been a really special journey. It's a real sort of mix of some of my core passions, obviously radio, but building technology or making technology solve common challenges that exist. And then also what's really close to my heart is working alongside our customers. So as Kelly said, we place a big focus on what we call customer success. So really being able to help our customers adopt our product and make sure that it actually improves how they're working and it's changing their circumstances. So what is Fabrik? Hopefully you can see the screen. Fabrik is just a bit of a background before we dive into Echocast. It is a suite of digital tools specifically tailored for the common needs of broadcast media, but at the same time also fully customizable. And it's delivered through a software as a service model, so thereby eliminating the needs and the high costs that are commonly associated with building custom software solutions. There are a number of parts to Fabrik, and I'm not going to go into all the details today, but just at the highest level, there are three main components. One of which is the mobile application. So our clients get a fully native iOS and Android application, which is branded for their own, it's their own brand, their own app in the app stores. Excuse me. And the mobile app covers a lot of things, but just to summarize them, it obviously handles live streaming and the song now playing information, but it supports pre-roll adverts and multiple streams. It obviously surfaces the on-demand content or podcasts. It also has native messaging functionality, very rich messaging functionality built into it so that your audience can communicate, send messages and voice notes to you in the studio, and that you can then obviously reply to them via push notifications. And then we also have the ability to create multiple customized and segmented messaging channels, which you can then message yourself there to those channels in the mobile app. Then we also have Smashboard. Smashboard, like Echocast, is a very key web application, which typically sits and runs all the time in the studio. And what it does, it brings in all messaging. So it brings in the app messages, the voice notes, it brings in social media messaging. So you basically can stay on top. Your presenters, whoever it is in your organization, can stay on top of what your audience is saying. It surfaces trending information. You can play out the voice notes from there. You can reply to messages from there. And you can also manage campaigns. Right. Then on to Echocast, which is obviously the focus of today. Echocast is really special to me. I think Kelly alluded to this just now, but Echocast is effectively the genesis of Fabrik. It's where Fabrik started, and it started from my time in radio when there was a specific need to try and make technology solve a very common problem in radio, and that is getting content that's broadcasted, getting that content easily onto digital platforms like your website or a mobile app. Obviously, there weren't mobile apps back then, but the workflow challenge is still there. And most of you will know that the process there is normally quite labor intensive and it takes quite a bit of time. Once something goes out on air, there typically needs to be some technical person or a producer who's got to go and find that content, chop it up, edit, and then upload it and then publish it. And that, depending on people's availability and or their keenness or not to help, that can usually take hours at best. So we really wanted to set or embark on a journey to be able to create a technology solution that solves that challenge. And really, whilst Echocast is a lot more than just that, I think that really is it was and it remains its key feature, is being able to record and publish audio within seconds. So this visual kind of explains that nicely. On the left-hand side, you've got the Echocast application. You can, and by you, I mean the presenters, the producers, the people who are on air at that time. It doesn't require after the fact technical people to go and find the audio. We wanted to empower the people that are putting the actual original broadcast content out on air, give them the ability to create that and manage the digital aspect. So on the left, yeah, just the ability to quickly record what is happening in real time on air, and then save that then automatically goes into the cloud, and within seconds after the actual live broadcast, have that audio content appear in the mobile app as well as the website for your audience to consume. So Kelly will give us a demo of how that works. Another key thing which I just wanted to touch on with Echocast is the fact that our entire backend is based in the cloud on Microsoft's Azure environment. The cloud never gets full, the hard drives never fill up, it never falls over, and we are archiving from day one, we're archiving your content. Whatever goes out on air is being archived in the cloud perpetually. And we can, Kelly will also show you just now how you access that audio archive. So a summary of Echocast is it's real-time podcasting, which is really what differentiates it from other content management systems. It handles the live streaming. Basically, it's all of the audio aspects of your platform. We do have, so besides the content, the podcasts or the on-demand content being surfaced in the mobile app, they also land on the website. You can see a little how that looks on the left-hand side there. We have a web widget, which basically automatically updates as soon as content is published. We have rich data meta tagging, which really is important for content discovery. And we have a content management platform, and obviously there's the cloud archive. So that's a high-level overview. I'm going to hand over back to Kelly to take us through the product demo.
Cool. Thank you, Bevan. So let me share my screen. Okay. So I haven't seen any questions yet, but maybe as we start to get into what Echocast can do, maybe your brains will start to be, your creative juices will start flowing as you see what Echocast, all the things that Echocast can do. So we'll now continue to our live demo, and Bevan, please feel free to jump in if you'd like to add anything here. So Echocast is a web-based application. So you can access this dashboard from any machine. It's not connected to a particular computer or machine. So whether you're accessing it from the studio or in your home office or wherever you are, Echocast is always available to you. So as soon as you log in, you will see this home screen. So this is your dashboard, and this is really where all of your recorded content is housed. There's a couple of states that your podcast or your piece of audio can be in. We've created one here that's under the needs metadata state, just to show you what it looks like if you have recorded a podcast, but you haven't filled in all the necessary information. So if you see a podcast and needs metadata, it means that you haven't actually filled in all the information that's required. So you can just go ahead and edit it, and you'll see that that this description box will display that it hasn't been filled in, and then you can go and update it, and it will publish to Echocast and to your apps and your web widget. So for the most part, your podcast will be in this complete section, and you'll see we've got a bunch of completed podcasts in our Fabrik demo account. So there's so much that you can do right from this screen. So you will be spending quite a lot of time, especially if you're using Echocast on a daily basis. You will be here quite often. You can go ahead and listen to the podcast right here from Echocast.
Let's bring in Tyler, because she's got some very interesting data.
So there we have some members of our team from a previous webinar that we did. And that one's, the next thing you can do is if you'd like to actually embed a specific podcast onto your website to be able to share it from there, you can do so by clicking here. And this will generate an embed code for you, which you can then go and copy and paste and add to your website quite easily. Then this part here is very interesting. So if you pull up this, this whole text box around all the information that is required for your podcast, you'll see that there's so much information here that you can add. And this is really important to do. So whether you're in a rush or hurry and you just want to publish the podcast really quickly without all of this information, that's fine. But do go back and make sure that you're filling each section in quite comprehensively, because this really makes it a lot easier for your listeners, for those who are using your app or your website, your web widget. So all of these sections aids in making it easier for your listeners to discover your content. So the recording name is the name that shows up on the app, on the web widget. So make this quite descriptive, make it different. Don't have a whole lot of podcasts that are just named the same thing. Make it easy for your listener to differentiate that. And then the next section is category. So I will go into a little bit more detail just now about categories. But categories are a really great way of filing your content and keeping, similar information all in the same category. So you'll see that we've actually created a few on this account. So it makes it a lot easier for you to come back and find similar content at a later stage, but it also makes it a lot easier for your listeners to search. If they go into the search on their app or the web widget, they'll be presented with the categories that you've added. So it makes it a lot easier for them. Description and keywords are also very important. So make sure that you're including useful information in there. Keywords are useful and important because if your listener doesn't know the name of the podcast, they might just type in something related to lockdown or COVID, something like that. And then if you've added appropriate keywords and you've tagged your podcast appropriately, they'll be able to find it. So please do spend a bit of time focusing on this, even if you come back, every so often during the week, and just make sure that your metadata is filled in. It really goes a long way. So featured podcast is also an option. I will come back to that in more detail a little bit later on. So that's the update metadata part. And then we have publish or unpublish. So this literally happens within seconds. If you would like to remove a podcast from your app or website, all you got to do is just come here and click and toggle it to unpublish, and it will literally disappear. So you, just because you've recorded and you've created a podcast to Echocast, it doesn't mean that you have to go live with it. You can use the publish and unpublish functionality to just pull out pieces of audio related to a client's campaign, for example, proof of play. And then at the end of the campaign, come here, download those audios and send them off to your client when they will have never been live on your app or your website. So it's a really great way of tracking and recording audio as well. And then obviously, if you want to remove a podcast completely, you can just click on the delete button. So that is this initial dashboard. I think I've gotten all the information we needed from there. So the next section we'll move on to is the search. So this is quite handy if you want to look for podcasts from a specific time, or you want to search for something from a specific date range. Here, this is where your categories will show up on Echocast. So if you are wanting to store content for an end-of-year compilation, as an example, or a best of, or any feature that you're going to come back to at a later stage, you can create a category and tag it best of, or best of 2020. And then at the end of the year, come back, just search for that category here, and you'll be able to find all of the things that you've tagged with that category. So that's super handy and super useful. So you're also able to filter by state if you'd like to see, if you'd like to come back at the end of the week and see which of your podcasts are potentially still needing metadata or still processing, that can be useful. Yeah, I think, Bevan, is there anything you'd like to add at this stage? Or am I
No, Kelly, you're
on
spot
point? Yay. Okay. Cool. So the next part of Echocast that I'd like to show you is something that I've had such amazing feedback from over the last while as I started to engage more people on Echocast. And that is the ability to download a piece of audio from any time in the past from your Fabrik-powered live stream. So if you've had an amazing on-air moment that you'd like to come back to and you'd like to pull out that audio and potentially use it as a podcast or just keep it, save it for a later stage, you can literally put in the start date, the start time, end date, end time, so the exact time when that audio was played, enter your email address, and I've tried this myself before. It literally takes seconds to send it to you. So it's quite amazing and quite unique. So I've heard that some stations often get requests from their listeners for specific pieces of audio. And, you know, if you've heard something phenomenal and that wasn't planned, this is a really great way of going back and grabbing that. Cool. So the next icon that I'll be clicking on is this upload button. So there are two ways that you can capture and publish audio to your Echocast dashboard. The first way is this manual audio upload process, which is very similar to other podcasting or content management systems. The second part is very exciting, which I'll go into directly after this. But if you have an existing piece of audio on your machine that you'd like to upload to Echocast and potentially publish as a podcast, you can do so here. So as I said, all of this information is important, so please don't leave it out when you are uploading your podcast. And then you can choose to, as I said, keyword, speaker, description, very important. And you can decide to publish or not publish. So you don't have to publish it right then and there. But if you'd like it to go live straight to your Apple website, then click here. Or you can just save it if you want to come back to it at a later stage. So this is interesting. And if you have a piece of audio content that you'd like to make very prominent and very visible on your Apple website, mark it as a featured podcast. Then you'll have the ability to add some art or a graphic or an image, set your featured date, and that podcast will actually be pinned to the top of your app or website. It will have the image displayed, and it will stay there for the duration of when you'd like it to be featured. So if you're running an internal promotion, I know one of our clients has just gone live today. So I was very excited to demo this piece of functionality to them because they've created an awesome app promotion. And I said, please upload it as a featured podcast because then it'll be clearly visible for people to hear and listen to. So that's a really handy little feature that a lot of people aren't actually aware of. So that is it for the manual upload audio part. And the next and almost final part that I'd like to demo to you is the live recording and publishing feature. So if you have some piece of audio that's coming up live on air that you'd like to record in real time, all you have to do is go here to the Start Recording button, and it will open up the recording window into a new window for you. See. Cool. So this is what you'll see when you are getting ready to record a piece of live audio from your stream. So when you are ready, all you've got to do is click this button, and then you'll literally see that you're recording live. So something that is quite useful if you're recording a bit of a longer form piece of content, like an interview with someone, and you have an ad break in between, or there's a song that you want to play, you can actually go and pause the recording here for as long as you like. We'll let it pause for a few seconds. And then when you're ready to resume your recording, you just click here, and you'll actually have a seamless piece of audio with no interruptions. So that's quite handy. Cool. So when you are ready to stop recording and stop recording, click there. Then you have a number of options, but for now we're going to click Save and Publish. And then what you'll see is that it will, yay, it was immediately published within seconds to your app or your website. Cool. So that is almost the end of my live demo, but what I want to do is, I know I mentioned categories beforehand, so I'd like to just show you how to create those. So how you access categories is just click your menu on the top right of your screen. You'll see it says categories here. And we've already created a couple of categories on our demo account. So if you want to create a category, just click there, add your category name, best of 2020, description, cool stuff in 2020. And then this is really cool. So if you say you've got a feature called news, or something that you are wanting to podcast regularly, and you don't want your rewind screen or your website to be filled with podcasts with the same name, all you got to do is just click this button, which is publish only the latest item. So that means that your listeners will only see the most recent podcasts in that category. But don't worry, the other podcasts of that category still remain on your Echocast. They just will not be visible. Okay. And then one more thing that I want to show you is presets. So presets are really useful. Already created settings and metadata for your podcast. So you'll see when I came here to record my podcast, we had already created a preset called news. So a preset is really a one-click record, add metadata, everything all already set up for you. So if you have your news bulletin coming up and you just want to assign all the same metadata to all the other news podcasts that you create, all you have to do is click this one, and it will start recording that podcast for you. I don't know why that's happening. And then ideally, it would just go straight to publish or to complete. So that's really handy. Cool. So that is me, Bevan.
I just wanted to add. To add to the presets there. I think just to take to elaborate the point. I think really, again, what I said earlier, we wanted to make it easy for the presenters while they're doing their shows, as easy as possible for them to actually create this content on the fly. And with the presets, we really just wanted to take that one step further. So instead of them saving a recording and then having to go and type in all that information each time, which category, descriptions, etc., for the repetitive recordings, we wanted things like news bulletins or sports bulletins, and maybe if it's even regular features. So if there's a daily feature, a joke of the day, or whatever it is, I'll encourage you to explore the presets option. We had set up one there just a demo. We had one called news, but there really isn't a limit to the number of preset buttons you can create. So it just we know what presenters are like or can be like, and we wanted to remove any excuse around it just takes too much effort for me to type this information in when I'm so busy with my show. That can all be accommodated through the presets and the categories, as well as what Kelly mentioned about the fact that categories can automatically only unpublish the previous one and publish the latest one all in the background, so that you don't have a feed that's full of repetitive content. So yeah, I really hope that that's given you a nice overview of the functionality. We would welcome questions. We would welcome feedback. If you would like to take it further and have a one-on-one session just to dive a bit deeper, we'd love to do that. Kelly, are there any questions that have come through?
Yes, and I knew that Patrick was going to ask a question. So we do have a question from Patrick, and he is asking, where is the description displayed and what are the keywords used for?
So it's a good question. The description can be displayed when the podcast is playing. And it can, I know at one stage we did have it. I'll have to double check whether it's currently on the web widget, but it did. We had the sort of the title and then the description almost as a subtitle below that, just to provide a bit more context. That kind of display in UI is we can customize some of that. And so the description really is just, I guess, to provide more info about the podcast at face value that isn't covered in the title itself. Keywords, I think, Kelly, you did touch on, but it's worth mentioning again. Keywords are not displayed anywhere, but they really are just additional meta tags associated to that content, so that when your listeners are browsing or searching for a particular keyword, either in the app or on the web widget, any keyword will then return results from that search, even though it's not sort of displayed in the front end itself. So hopefully that covers the question.
Great, thank you, Bevan. We don't seem to have any other questions, but I've prepared a couple of questions that my clients or our Fabrik clients usually ask me when I'm taking them through Echocast. So one of the questions I get asked quite often is, how do I share a podcast?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it's part of Echocast's workflow. So, it really depends on what you mean exactly by the term sharing. But Echocast is designed to share podcasts within seconds, or content, rebroadcast content, on-demand content within seconds. So obviously all of the workflow that you've just talked through, Kelly, is actually at its heart about sharing, but it's sharing to these predefined endpoints, these destinations, which are, in the Fabrik context, are obviously Echocast is designed to work with both the mobile app, and in the mobile app, there's a rewind screen, which is dedicated to rewinding, to playing back content on demand, whilst not really podcasts, but it's certainly the place, listeners can go and find and re-listen to something or share something from there. But so Echocast sharing is really through that publish and unpublish functionality, but that's to the predestined destinations, so your app and your web widget. There are other ways, so you can obviously do that embed code if you want to share a particular podcast. So a lot of our customers have our podcast widget on their homepage and maybe on a dedicated podcast page, and that will update based on what is and isn't published in Echocast. But if there's a particular podcast that you want to maybe put on the breakfast show page, you can go and use that embed code and copy that and paste that into that breakfast show website, and then you'll have just that specific podcast featured there. As far as sharing socially goes, you can't do that from within Echocast, but that can very easily be done from both the website as well as from the mobile app. So you can do that as a station, but the most important thing there really is to allow your listeners to share that socially and virally through their Twitter and Facebook accounts, which is all possible. So yeah, that's some of the sharing options.
Thank you so much, Bevan. You were breaking up a little bit for me, so perhaps turn your video off to improve the audio quality. We actually now have 2 more questions, so we're obviously prompting some thinking here in our attendees. So Robert Ridder is asking, does it log at the time of day the podcast was recorded? And can you automatically add the DJ or show name?
Yes and yes. So, the podcast, we log that, and you can obviously see that data in the screen that you're on, obviously the time of the recording. By default, we publish based on the recording time. So, you don't, the feed, the podcast order, the order of the content in the app and the website is based on the time it was recorded, not the time it was published. So if you go and unpublish or republish something that was a week ago, it doesn't then appear to the top of the feed. However, that is that is configurable. So we can actually order content based on date published rather than date recorded. So that is all absolutely saved, and it provides us with some flexibility and options around that. And the second part of the question was,
can you
automatically
add? Yeah, the DJ.
Yes, you can. So through the use of presets, that's the most easy. That's the easiest way of doing it. So certain presets can just automatically include that metadata. But there also is an option to add I think we call it speaker. When you're editing a podcast, there's an option to add the speaker name there, which is you can put the presenter name or whatever it is there. But to do it automatically, that's done through the preset.
Wonderful, thank you. Ooh. So we have a question from Graham White, who is loving everything that we are talking about with regards to Echocast. But a quick question on the audio archive. Is the audio quality of this audio on downloading an element from the past good enough for editing, for use in promos, etc.?
Yeah, it's a great question. We do separate out the quality of the audio that we serve to the streaming. So although that's all powered by Fabrik, we do transcode that for particularly for the mobile app. We're obviously very data conscious and making sure that we're using the most efficient trade-off between quality and bitrate size. But the audio that we archive is what we consider to be very, very high quality. It is an AAC formatted or encoded stream. And if you listen to that, if you download any audio from the archive, I'm sure you'll agree that the quality is absolutely good enough to then edit and then republish. And I think on that note, I did want to just elaborate on something from earlier, something that comes up often. And I think the great thing about radio is the fact that it's live. And sometimes there's a great on-air piece that just happened organically, and the presenter wasn't really anticipating that. I would really encourage you to go and, because it's so much easier through Echocast to now go and extract that piece of audio. You're not reliant on some technical or producer person to go and do it after the fact. You can just very quickly extract that from the archive, download it to your machine, top and tail it a bit, and then re-upload that as a podcast all through Echocast. And the quality that you get from the archive is absolutely good enough to be able to do that.
Cool. Thank you so much. I think, as I said in my demo, I've just been blown away by how excited our clients and our those new to Fabrik are about this particular feature. So maybe, Graham, you could go and test that for us and see how it works for you, and let us know. Cool. So one last comment from Jonathan Lumley. So the more data and keywords you put into the metadata, the easier it would be to find that audio later on. So if you need to put together best of showreels, or months later come back to finding best of material, it's easy to find. Absolutely, yes, Jonathan. You've put it so succinctly and wonderfully.
Yeah, less of a question, more of a statement. But that's exactly what we wanted to encourage through the metadata. Is as much information as descriptive keywords. All of that is going to help both your listeners through the app and the website to discover that. But I think equally as importantly, like you're referring to there, Jono, is for best ofs. You can record content in Echocast, not publish it, and just use it for an internal sort of filing system. And how you tag that data then at the end of the year or at the end of a period to really go and use the search functionality in Echocast. It'll at least help you or your producers find the content you're looking for very easily. So the more info you put in there, absolutely the better.
Wonderful. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming through, but as we've mentioned, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have a burning question about Echocast or about anything else Fabrik related, please do get in touch with me or Bevan, and we are more than happy to take you through any part of Fabrik or this particular Echocast training again. So that's it from me. I'm so grateful and happy that you joined us today. Oh, we have one last question coming through the gates from Mr. Anis Hassam. How far back can I go to find a piece of audio?
I'm so glad you asked. Like I touched on at the beginning, I think the beauty of the cloud is that it doesn't get full. I did mention that, that we're archiving since the day you take up Fabrik, the day we put down our encoder on premise, and we're bringing that up into the cloud. You can go back as far as you would like. Well, certainly since the inception of it, and extract that audio. But from an Echocast point of view, the same applies. So there's really no limit to this. Audio doesn't expire. So although there's a delete button there, which by the way is hidden we can hide that. We can remove that functionality from presenters. We have different levels of user permissions, but whilst there's a delete button there, I really don't see a need to use it. I'd rather just unpublish it, unless it really was just a recording an error. But there's no limit to how far back you can go, and it never gets full, which is the beauty of it.
Great. Any last and final questions that anyone would like to ask? Go on.
Hopefully everyone knows how to reach us anyway, if there are more.
Yes. So as you may know, we are doing a lot more webinars in the coming weeks. We have one taking place next week, Thursday again. So please do keep an eye on our social media and on our emails. On your emails, we will be communicating that with you. So we hope to see you again very soon. Thank you again so much for attending. We were so excited about this and so happy that you got to learn a bit more about Echocast today. Thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.